Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. Welcome to the weekly football news live. We're going to talk a bit of everything as we discuss the world of the beautiful game. We're going to talk transfer rumours, completed transfers, sales, everything we can think of. Please do get involved. Just giving the show a little bit of a share. Hopefully, you guys will also do that. Helps us out a great deal. I'm just getting it out there and get the people joining the conversation, because that's what it's all about. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Give it a retweet, a share, whatever it may be, whatever you're watching on. I know you're all watching because I can see the numbers during and after. So I know there's people watching, and we do very well with the audio downloads as well. So please do give it a share. Let's get it out there. Let's get more people involved in the conversation. But lots to discuss, as it were. Let's give that Twitter a quick retweet. And there we go. Right then, guys, welcome. I'm Si, in case I didn't already say that. Let's have a chit chat. Let's talk some football. There is lots to discuss. We'll just kind of hang fire a little bit as we wait for some people to join. But it's always good fun. Friday night. So basically, it was supposed to be last night, as we discussed earlier in the week when we did the Cardiff show. But my wife's away tonight. So yesterday I spent some time with her, and rather than doing a podcast and then do the podcast tonight while she's not here. It works out great for everyone. But I appreciate you joining me because it's Friday. So I know, some people have got lives, unlike myself. We're going to talk Mason Mount to United. Another bid's gone in. We're going to talk Manchester City potentially hijacking old Declan Rice deal to Arsenal, which is really interesting. I've got a theory on that and how he's going to fit into that, because I saw some people sort of saying, oh, yeah, Declan Rice, he's, Man City don't need him. But I've got an argument for that. Obviously, with Gundogan leaving as well, among other things. So there's lots to discuss. Lots of shows and stuff like that. Lots of teams, lots of rumours, lots of everything. Let's discuss it. If you're on Twitter, retweet. If you're on Facebook, share. If you're on YouTube, share. Get the people involved. Let's have a discussion about the beautiful game. And if you aren't already, do sign up to patreon.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Helps us out so much. And, of course, keeps the channel going. Got some exciting stuff going. Tomorrow, we drop a new episode of My Story, which features Welsh champion, Celtic champion, Kieran Gethin joining me. And it's a really thought-provoking show, talking about all sorts of subjects. Boxing, of course, his book, his stint into promotion. It was actually, surprisingly, quite an emotional show. It was a bit, at some points, it was really interesting. If you like your podcast in audio form, you're probably already listening to it. But big thank you to the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first dedicated sports podcast network. They have got so many podcasts, including all of ours. David Seaman's off the top of my head. There's a couple of cricket ones. It's just got so many big names. Get involved at sportsocial.co.uk. Follow all of Ace Podcast Nation's individual podcasts through them as well. But big shout out to them for all the support as ever. Robert Boyle, welcome, my friend. It's Friday evening, so, people are having a couple of beers in the garden, chilling out. Let's talk some football. First story, so before we get into the big boys and all this sort of rubbish, let's talk about Ruben Neves, right? Wolves midfielder has moved to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia for 47 million. Good money for Wolves. They needed that as well, because they've in a bit of a black hole with the old financial fair play. But he's 26. He is at the peak of his powers, if you like. He's been linked with United. He's been linked with Arsenal. Been linked with Barcelona. Been linked with all these teams. 26 years old. Proven himself in the Premier League. Is it a backward step to move to Saudi Arabia at the age of 26? He scored 30 goals in 253 appearances during a 6-season stay at Wolves. He's been a phenomenal player for Wolves. And I'm kind of caught in between, because I don't I don't want to criticize anyone for chasing the bag, and he's going to get paid nicely, set him up for life. But let's be honest, if you're a first team Premier League footballer for any of the teams in the Premier League, you're getting paid more in a week than most people like myself or whoever get paid in a year. Okay, so they're already set up for life. So what do you want at the end of your career? Yes, you want to, you've already got the nice house and the nice car and your family's set up and your kids are set up forever. Like, surely you want medals and you want to show a bit of ambition and be able to look back on your career on special moments, on Champions League wins, on title victories, etc. So granted, chances are at Wolves, Ruben Neves probably wasn't going to get that. But if he had gone to United, Arsenal, Barcelona, all the clubs who were linked with him, he still would have got paid handsomely, by the way. But he would have maybe won some very prestigious trophies through his career. And we're going to talk about ambition and trophies and stuff and how important they are a bit later when we discuss Harry Kane. But I don't criticize Ruben Neves for getting the money. Like, I'm sure he's getting paid a boatload of cash. They're backing up that dumper truck as we talk, and they're emptying cash into his empty swimming pool. And I'm sure it'll be lovely to go and move out to Saudi Arabia. And look, in a few years' time, the Saudi Arabian league may be like the Pro League, maybe one of the top leagues in the world. Maybe. The way they're putting money into it, if that continues, it will be. But as we saw with China, they kind of got a load of investors, spent a lot of cash, got players out there who they could, paying them a fortune. And then that stopped after a couple of years because they realized it wasn't financially viable. Oscar's still out there, mind, and there's a few others out there still plying their trade. But generally, the ridiculous wages kind of eased off a bit. Whereas, the Saudi, as we discussed recently, like the Middle East and these countries, they don't declare how rich they are. They're so rich. Like, you've got Jim Ratcliffe as an instance is like the richest man in the UK or whatever they kind of portray him as. But that's because they declare their earnings from different European companies and stuff like that. The Saudis and the Qatar and Dubai and they don't declare how much money they got. They have literally got trillions, mega trillions, just ridiculous amounts of wealth. Like, if they want to just spend like ridiculous money every year on these players, they will. And I think the signing of Ruben Neves can be one of two things, depending on how you as a person view football. If you view it through kind of cynical eyes, it's like, oh, he's gone for the money, whatever, money grabber, he's not interested in football, trophies, blah, blah, blah. Or you can see it as he is someone who wants to change the game. He wants to be the first. He wants to be the guy who went to the Saudi League in his prime, the first one, a trendsetter. And then when the Saudi League in a few years is one of the best leagues in the world, he can say, I was one of the first lot who went out there. Depends how you look at it, I guess. Rob Boyle says he's obviously not a fan of football. Fuck that. And any other player on his or above level chasing money who realistically don't need it. And that's the thing. I think realistically they don't need it. And I think, look, Benzema, Ronaldo, don't blame them. End of their career, they've made shitload of money, won the trophies. Why not just get one big bag to finish? Wicked. Great for them. But when you're going at 26 in your peak, when you've literally got the biggest clubs in the world wanting to sign you, like this man's had Barcelona, Man United, wouldn't be surprised if Madrid were in there as well, Arsenal's, Chelsea's, all these clubs wanted to have a bit of Ruben Neves at some point in the last couple of years. But he's gone to Saudi. I don't know where I stand on it, but I think part of me is very disappointed. Good for Saudi though, like it is ultimately. Looks like I think Koulibaly's gone out there from Chelsea. We discussed that. I don't want to go over the same stuff with the investment-y side of it. It is what it is. Bruno is it Bruno? Who's going out there from Man City? Bernardo Silva is going out there from Man City, by the looks of it, on a few-year deal. Like, it's just I don't know where I stand on it with Bernardo Silva, because I think he's a bit older, but I don't think he's like, oh, come on. Bernardo Silva, let's have a look. Bernardo Silva, 28, so he's not even that much, he's 2 years older. Bernardo Silva is 28, just won a treble. He's got a PSG after him. He's got all these clubs, and he's going to go to Saudi with Neves. I just don't get it at all. Like, honestly, how much money do you need, really? You've got OAP players, but I get the likes of. So Rob says, yeah, the OAP players, I get. He says, but the likes of Neves and Bernardo Silva get in the bin. Tommy Tornado is back in the house. He says, do we think the Saudi League will grow? And yeah, you're right. He says Bernardo Silva's 29. What a joke. Like, that's what I mean. Ruben Neves, Bernardo Silva, they're at the peak of their powers, and going out to the Saudi League just feels a bit like, but yeah, it is what it is. I swear. Like, and then you look at, I can never pronounce his name. Gudungan. Obviously, just won the FA Cup and the treble for his team, club captain at Manchester City. He's gone to Barcelona. Well, that shows where his ambition is, because he's a bit older, and he wants to go. And he's just won the treble. He's on a free transfer. Could have made absolute bank, which I'm sure he did, by the way. Barcelona are not paying him in pennies, but he's gone to Barcelona because he wants more trophies. He wants more career highlights, career moments, because ultimately moments and career trophies and winning things is what matters, because once you earn a certain amount of money, it doesn't really matter, does it? Let's be honest. If you're a Premier League footballer and you get paid 20 grand a week or more, and let's be honest, 20 grand a week is like the very bottom tier. That's the academy players who've come through their teams and are not on the same wages as their teammates. 20 grand a week. You're getting paid than a lot of people get paid. You're getting paid a lot more in a week for playing football, and that's not including sponsors and all the rest of the shit they get, than some people get a year in this country. And it's like, you're picking money over legacy, exactly what Tommy Tornadoes just said there. I find it poor. Look, I haven't watched a great deal of the Saudi League. I watched a little bit of Ronaldo's games, like some highlights and that. It just looks like kind of League One standard with a couple of really good. There is some good players, and look, maybe it's better than League One actually, because like the Saudi team, the international team, they looked half decent in the World Cup. I'm not saying they looked amazing, but they at least looked like they belonged there. They didn't embarrass themselves. They had some good players who play top level football, and if they can keep signing top level players to that league, then of course it's going to improve, as long as it doesn't end up like what China did, where they paid all these wages for like 2 years, obscene amounts, then realized it wasn't viable and then stopped. And this is what it is. And look, Bernardo Silva is just like Gudungan has just won the treble, right? So, like, yeah, maybe you could say, what else can he do? But, like, ultimately, Gudungan's 32, gone to Barca, and he's going to go and have trophies and all that sort of stuff. And I just find it a bit of a sickener. Like, all right, let's be honest, right? Let's say Ruben Neves had no one to go to, and the only options he had was like teams at the similar sort of level as Wolves, and he was like, maybe go to Celtic, or like, maybe a lower league German team, and they were his only options, and he was like, I'm going to go and just take the bag but like, this man could have signed for the biggest football clubs in the world. So what's he doing? Quite frankly, what the fuck is he doing? But that's one story. what should we move on to next? What shall we move on to next? Well, I'll tell you what, being the professional that I am, and I like to link things together. We talk about ambition and legacy, where we talk about these players who are signing into the Saudi Arabian League at their age. What do we think of Harry Kane? 29, year left on his contract. Previously tried to force a move a couple of years back to Man City by not turning up to training. Tried to force his way over, didn't get the move. Got called by Rodri unprofessional when he was doing that. And by the way, he was like 27, 26, 27 then when he tried to force his move and he didn't get it. Then there was supposedly some sort of agreement that he'd be allowed to leave, and he wasn't. If Harry Kane doesn't force a move this summer, so Harry Kane's 29, 30, I think, soon, or if not already. He's in the last year of his contract. He's never won a trophy apart from Golden Boot. If he doesn't put a transfer request in, is he showing a lack of ambition? If he doesn't try his very best to force a move, probably to United, but let's say just force a move, is he showing a lack of ambition? Is he not being brave? Because I think if he stays at Tottenham next season, I think he will end up signing another contract. And then he'll be there forever. Oh, great. He'll be a one-club man. Right. Do you know what the difference is between previous one-club men who get celebrated? Your Jamie Carragher's, your Ryan Giggs, your Guy Neville's, these one-club heroes, legends of the Premier League. The difference is they won trophies. They won every trophy there was to win, apart from in Carragher's case. He didn't win the league title, but he won a Champions League, he won FA Cups, the rest of it. Harry Kane, if he stays at Spurs, will not win a trophy, right? If he doesn't force a move now to United while they need a striker, I think it shows a massive lack of ambition. He knows that Daniel Levy is difficult to deal with. So he should be saying, no, I've given you my whole of my 20s. Now it's time that you let me go and do this for me. He wants the Premier League goal scoring record, so I think that's why he'll end up staying in the Premier League. But I think he's got to do it. And let's be honest, next summer he'll be free if he doesn't sign another contract, which I think he would. But if he doesn't, he'll be free next year. But he's also going to be 31 or 30, coming on 31. So will he have the same suitors? Will he still be capable? The reason United want him now is because they need a striker for now, not like a youngster who may come good. They need someone now who's going to bag them 20, 30 goals a season. He fits the bill. If he doesn't come, then they need to get someone else and stuff like that. Like, I just think it's a massive lack of ambition. Because at the end of your career, yeah, you might be the record goal scorer, but if you've never won a trophy, I'm just not sure that's... Look, everyone's different. And you've got a nice house and a nice, you've got all the money in the world. Record Premier League goal scorer, great. Never won a Premier League, never won an FA Cup, never won a... And I say this because he has the ability to win those things. He now has the opportunity to go to clubs who could win those things with his help. So Tommy Tornado says, where would he go in the Prem? He wouldn't go to a London club. Yeah, and I think that's true. I think he wouldn't go anywhere in London. So I think at the moment it's United or Madrid. And I think he probably would end up going to United now just simply because they need a striker. It seems to kind of fit all together. And I think in that Ten Hag system, I think he'd be quality. Score a shitload of goals playing with Bruno and Rashford and that. He'd score a load of goals. But I mean, what other options are there? Chelsea will try and sign him, obviously, because Chelsea will try and sign everyone. And obviously Poch is there, I think, will obviously make a difference. He'll try to. I don't think he'd be allowed to go there. Don't think Man City would want him, although Man City do like to have like every player under the sun. I don't think Liverpool need him now because they signed what's his face? I forgot his name. Someone will tell me the guy they signed and the striker who's not been that great, but they'll stick with him for another season. So like next season on a free, he might be, he may still be going strong, and there may be clubs, but a lot can change in a year. So to me, should be forcing the move, or at the very least, should be having a conversation with Daniel Levy saying, look, I gave you my 20s, let me go. Rob, you're spot on about Newcastle. I'm going to talk about them. They are doing some quiet, sneaky, quality signings. Where's that question which Tommy asked? Tommy Tornado says, does Jamie Vardy have a better legacy than Harry Kane? At the moment, he does, I think. He's won a league title, won an FA Cup. Leicester's record goal scorer, I believe, as well. So, I think his legacy is stronger than Harry Kane's. I don't think it's even a debate, really. I'm sure Tottenham fans would try and argue otherwise, but ultimately it's about winning trophies. And it's not about winning individual trophies. The only individual trophy which matters at the end of your career is the Ballon d'Or. Golden Boot, lovely at the time, great achievement, means you're doing well in your career. But when you look back at the end of your career, if all you've got is a couple of Golden Boots, I don't think that means anywhere near as much as having a Premier League winners' medal, an FA Cup winners' medal, plus a couple of Golden Boots. The only individual trophy that matters at the end of your career is the Ballon d'Or, I believe. But tell me if I'm wrong. So Newcastle's a really interesting one. Newcastle fans are so touchy, man, on social media, because, and this is only my opinion, so people can tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's because Newcastle have kind of always almost been like people's, not second club, but they always kind of, people like them, they play good football, but they haven't really been like challenging and that. They're a big club within their sort of the north, and everyone kind of likes them, entertaining, etc. And then when they got taken over by the Saudis, there was a little bit of pushback, particularly from the LGBT like magpies, that pushback from that side of it. But a lot of Newcastle fans, especially like the well-known ones like your Shearers and the rest of them, they kind of were very quiet about the Saudi thing. And then when the Qatar things come up for United, there's been, because United are obviously a big deal and they get clicks and stuff on news, that has kind of blown up a bit more, and people have said, oh, state ownership this, state ownership that. And then it's come back on Newcastle, I think, a bit, and they've taken a bit more criticism through that. And I see the Newcastle fans getting a little bit touchy. But when the Saudis took over last year, me and Rodri were like, they have got so much money. Like, they can spend, like, in terms of just money from a pot, they could blow Man City out of the water. Obviously, there's rules in place to make sure that you've got a financial fair play, all that shit. But they never quite, they spent a bit last summer in January, and they brought in some good young players and some good players. I think Eddie Howe's done a wicked job, tremendous job. But I do also think there's like this thing of, is he looking over his shoulder? Are they just waiting for him to go on a bit of a bad run and they're going to sack him and try and bring in like whoever the fashionable big name is as the manager? We don't know. At the moment, it seems like they're doing things properly. They've signed Sandro Tonali, 23-year-old Italian international, 43 million bid. They had a 43 million pound bid rejected initially, and now he's signed. He signed on like a 6-year deal. I think it's 60 million. He is a phenomenal footballer. Like, he is a really, really good footballer. And I think that's such a good signing. And Newcastle have been like sneaking around, like, while everyone's talking about Mason Mount and Declan Rice and all these people. What's United doing? What's City doing? What's Chelsea doing? What's Arsenal doing? Newcastle, super, super clever, man. Just getting Tonali in. Because I honestly think that if there wasn't distractions of Declan Rice and Mason Mount and the Qatar sale and things like that, I think United, Chelsea, Arsenal would be in for Tonali. And Eddie Howe has done bits by moving him in. Great signing. They've been linked with James Maddison heavily as well. Be another really, really good signing for him. So it's going to be interesting who they bring in now, because they got Champions League, and I think they got Champions League before people expected. I think people were more expecting them to challenge to get in that top 4 this year. So I mean, it's going to be interesting how they do, because if they pull off 2 or 3 more signings of that caliber, particularly the age of him, man, like he could be like exceptional for them for a few years, you know. But the other side of it is like, will that squad hold out mentally? We saw what happened to Arsenal with a young squad who kind of they weren't used to being in that position, and ultimately Man City were too much for them. So does that, will Newcastle maybe struggle when next year, if Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, United, City, all the big boys or traditional big boys, if they're all going at it for the top 4, how will the Newcastle squad deal with that? I think they keep making signings like that, they'll be way, way up there. So look at a couple of the comments. Tommy Tornado says that only thing with Newcastle, United have a better chance of winning something in the next few years, in my opinion. I agree with that. I think Ten Hag showed enough in his first season that if United back the manager, he will get them back to where they feel that they should be if they back him. But an interesting little wave in that is there's been a few reports that Ten Hag's been getting pissed off because the sale is interfering with the transfer window and they can't get the players over the line. They lost Kim Min-jae to Bayern. They lost Timber Timber went to Arsenal and they weren't in. Maybe they've been linked with him before, so he's definitely holding things up. I know they've been linked with Rabiot on a free, and that doesn't seem to have been over the line. Obviously, you've got Mason Mount, and they wanted Declan Rice, apparently, and they weren't kind of involved in the conversation still this week. But we'll talk about Declan Rice in a minute. But I mean, so we talked earlier in the week about managers, if you can't get your players in and the board tries to tell you who to buy, you should walk away, because you're ultimately the one who's going to get the blame and get fired if you don't get the players in that you want. So if you're working with someone else's players and then you get the blames, you should walk away. But there's another aspect to that as well, is if the board won't back you, especially at a club the size of United, so they should back Ten Hag. And this has been one of their problems in recent years, is Mourinho got second. They didn't back him the season after when he could have pushed on and maybe challenged in the Champions League or for the Premier League title. Solskjaer finished second and third, and they didn't back him that year. And again, they finished third, got to 2 cup finals. Ten Hag proves that he can work. He did it on a bit of a shoestring with loan players and stuff. Back him with the players he wants early, and he's shown that he'll be up there. They haven't so far backed him. It's early days, though. It's early days. But some of the players he wants are going elsewhere. So it is different. It's difficult. Kane is 3 or 4 years left at the top, maybe more. Yeah, and I think the way he plays, he drops deep, and he's not like a Rashford or someone who's playing in behind. He drops deep and links up play, gets a lot of assists and goals. He can play for another 3 or 4 years at the top. But another year at Tottenham to go on free, things change. United, for instance, can't go another season without a striker. So if Kane's not going to them, they've got to get someone else. And as it stands at the moment, the other clubs don't need a striker. So things can change, of course. But Harry Kane's got to make a decision, in my opinion. Tommy Tornado, waiting for someone big to invest in the Welsh capital. Yeah, we've been waiting for that for a long time, mate. And it just doesn't come. More chance of Saudi club paying 50 million for Gary Medine than us getting lucky with an owner. So I'll put this question to you, Tommy, which someone asked me in the chat on Wednesday show, is would you be happy with Cardiff getting state ownership from Saudi, Qatar, Dubai, etc.? Would you be all right with that? If Cardiff got taken over by state ownership? My answer at the time was, I don't want any state ownership. I wouldn't want the Welsh government or the UK government to be in charge. It's not a Middle East thing. It's a state thing. I don't want a state government, because then you just do automatically become a political pawn for that state. It's just the way it is, because you're all forever linked. So whatever that government does, so imagine your club was owned by Tony Blair during the Iraq War, like you'd be forever entwined with that, you know? So I just think I would prefer not to be state owned, but I'm a massive fucking hypocrite, like a lot of football fans, in that I want my club to go as high as possible and win things. And the only way to do that currently really is to have investment and a billionaire owner. So I would be happy to have it. So there we go. Kai Havertz has gone to Arsenal. £65 million. £65 million for Kai Havertz. Now, I'm not saying that that's a massive waste of money and they've been mugged off, but can somebody tell me, like, am I missing something? 2 years ago, he scored a Champions League final winner, but in his 2 years at Chelsea, and at the same time whilst playing for Germany, I have not seen anything from Kai Havertz which would make me want to play £65 million. I do not understand it. Arteta plays with one striker. He plays like that 4-2-3-1. But I've heard rumours, or not rumours, I've read that Arteta wants Kai Havertz to play the number 8 role, which Granit Xhaka's been playing. So it would be, as it stands now, Partey as the holder, and then Odegaard and Kai Havertz as your midfield. Obviously, they want Declan Rice, mate. Right, let me paint a picture for you. Right, Arsenal versus United. Okay, they line up similar formations: 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, and United line up with Casemiro in the pivot, with Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount either side, against Odegaard and Havertz ahead of Thomas Partey, we'll say, because Declan Rice isn't there. Like, is it just me, or is that midfield getting absolutely outworked physically and from a distance, work rate, running, everything from Casemiro, Bruno, and Mason Mount? But also, Bruno Fernandes, as we know, creates the most chances in the Premier League. Mason Mount is the one who's going to do the kind of passing and stuff. Like Thomas Partey, or even if you put Declan Rice in there, because I think the problem Declan Rice is going to have if he goes to Arsenal or United, but particularly Arsenal, is Declan Rice is used to almost playing as like a de facto centre-back for West Ham. They play so deep. He plays so deep. He's going to have to play in Arsenal's. If he plays signs for Arsenal, he is going to have to play almost on the halfway line and in the opponent's half. He's not used to doing that. So it's a completely different role in a completely different area to the pitch. So there's no guarantee that he will be able to do that. Then if you put Kai Havertz in front of him in midfield, that's insanity to me. Honestly, that I just do not get it. Do you know, Declan Rice, it's a weird one, right? Because when on paper you look at it, do Man City need Declan Rice? No. But actually, what if I said to you, that role which John Stones played last year, where he, in the lineup, he's a centre-back, but he effectively plays like CDM, and then they play with the 3 central defenders. The 2 full-backs are actually centre-backs, and they kind of all push in and push up, and they get the overload. What if I said to you, right, take John Stones out of that, and you're going to put Declan Rice in that? So he's going to be the centre-back who becomes a de facto midfielder. John Stones is going to play the Akanji role on the right of the defence. And so it would be Ruben Dias, John Stones, and whoever the left one is, depending on the day. And Declan Rice is the one who pushes into midfield. That's almost like the perfect role for him, because it's almost like the role he also plays for like West Ham, because he plays so deep and he has played centre back as well. So I can see why City might want him to play that role. With Gundogan going, I wouldn't be surprised to see City go and get like a really top level attacking midfielder. They've brought Kovacic in, who's good, but he's 29. They've got quite an old squad. City have their average age is like 28, 29. But I actually think you could put Jack Grealish in there and get the best out of Jack Grealish if he played the role that Gundogan played last year, like getting in the spaces, arriving late in the box. But also they got Phil Foden on the bench who didn't play. They've also got Calvin Phillips. I think Calvin Phillips goes. I think Calvin Phillips to Arsenal would be an interesting shout. Honestly, the Kai Havertz thing, I just do not get. Declan Rice, I thought it seemed pretty clear that he wanted to go to Arsenal. But then when you can't couple in this as well, then Declan Rice, Luke Shaw, and Mason Mount were all best mates. If Mason Mount goes to United, which looks very likely, maybe Declan Rice goes to Man City and they all live in Manchester together. I don't know, man. It's a weird one, isn't it? But so on paper you think, why do Man City don't need Declan Rice? But do you know what Fergie did so well over the years? Is every time he won trophies, he made their team stronger. So it's an interesting one. I think Arsenal, surely they won't get beaten to another big name they want, like Martinez before and a few others over the years that they've been pipped to. Who was the lad who went to Chelsea last year when he was pretty much all but agreed to go to Arsenal? Modric, was it? Jurriën Timber, by the way, is a great signing for Arsenal. He's a really versatile, good foot. He can play full-back, centre-back. Very, very good. Rob Boyle says Arteta clearly doesn't rate Smith Rowe. Yeah, I think Smith Rowe would be a good loan signing for someone. Don't think he would drop into the Championship. If he would or did, I would love to see him at Cardiff City. He is the perfect player to play alongside Aaron Ramsey when you need. We talked about wanting to have legs and energy around Aaron Ramsey. There you go. But I think he's too good for the Championship. I think he'd be a if they loan him out, he'd go to a Premier League club. I think they might even sell him. Tommy Tornado says, ideally, no, but it seems the only way you could compete is if you want to have a massive club. So this is about state. Would you accept state ownership? Ideally, no, but it seems the only way you would compete is if you wanted to be a massive club. Having said that, I would not go back to playing red, even if it guaranteed success. Yeah, 100%. Well, I've only been back once since the rebrand because of that exact reason, and that was because my son wanted to go for his birthday. So I'm with you, brother. With you all the way. Yeah, Phil Foden on the bench is flipping insane. Crazy the depth they've got. But you can understand, I can see why they want I can see why Pep wants Declan Rice. Like it almost fits together like a jigsaw so well. I really, really I can see it. If I'm Calvin Phillips, man, I'm getting out of there. Like I get it, he just won a treble, blah blah blah. Like, man, get out with it. Like you like at this point you play like 5 minutes here and there. It's ludicrous. What other news we got? Right. Here's a controversial question for you all then in the chit chat. Mason Greenwood has been spotted training, not with United, I should say, just general football training. Obviously, all charges were dropped. Not found guilty of anything, but we all heard the tape and stuff like that. United at the point they're at now, they are having trouble in the transfer market because of the sale. The sale could be done tomorrow, could take ages. If they get to start of September and they still haven't signed the striker, I think he has to stay in their first team squad. I don't think he should, but I just think they'll have no choice. But I personally think they should sell him. but I also think that, so from a business point of view, right, if I was the Manchester United people who are making the business people I'm talking, I would probably loan him out to an Italian club for 2 years. And then if he goes and scores a load of goals, you can sell him. If he doesn't, then you just let his contract run out and whatever, fuck him. So I can see the logic in that, like just loaning him out, because there's loads of Juventus want him, like go there 2 years. If he bangs, like, and scores loads of goals, playing amazing, after the 2 year loan is up, you can either sell him for big bucks, because remember, like, he was 100 million rated player before all this, so like you could just sell him, and they can kind of just put it down to him being a cunt. Or if he's, he never gets back to the levels he was at, it's whatever. You just let his contract go, and they haven't got to deal with, like, they just push it. They haven't got to deal with it. I think they're not going to sack. They can't sack him because he wasn't charged with anything. So they've either, the choices are sell him, keep him, loan him. So from a business point of view, if I'm Manchester United, I would loan him for 2 years. I would do a 2 year loan to someone, Juventus, Milan, whoever wants him, whatever. There's no way that I would bring him back. I don't think I would want him back. If I'm Ten Hag, I wouldn't want him back at the moment, because I think it's too much of a distraction. The amount of abuse and hate that he's going to get, the club's going to get, I just don't see a way back for him. The hate he would get is insane. There's been people within, like, the women's team, the sponsors, who said they don't want him. And Rob Boyle says, wouldn't he be better off going to Saudi? I mean, that's an option, mate. I got to say, like, if Saudi offered you like 50 million, if you're United and some Saudi offered you 50 million for Mason Greenwood, you're taking that all day long, and you, because I think for United, for the people who are making the decision and whatnot, it's a no-win situation. Because if they get rid of him, they wouldn't get a lot for him unless he goes to Saudi, because he hasn't played football for nearly 2 years. But then if you sell him for like $1 million and he goes and plays for Juventus and scores 30 goals a season for the rest of his career, you're kind of like, why did you get rid of it? You get all the criticism, that side of it. But then also, so if you keep him, you get criticised. And if you don't keep him and he goes and does something, you get criticised. It's no win. So for me, the most intelligent thing to do is to loan him for 2 years and just get him out of your hair and get him away. And, he might be able to resurrect his career or whatever. Whether he deserves to be able to do that is a conversation. Every single person will have their own individual view on that. It is what it is. What else have we got? Well, just last thing on United, I guess. Onana has been linked. His agent has met with United this week. Was very impressive for Inter Milan in the Champions League final. I think he's exactly what United need. If I was the decision maker, I would prefer Diogo Costa. I think he's 23. He's a bit younger, but similar. Like, they're both like the sort of footballing goalkeepers who are around at the top level. But I think Onana is exactly what United need now, as De Gea's probably at his day. So it is raised. Tommy Tornado says football fans do forget. Remember Zuma. Yeah, and look, there's all sorts. And I think, like, it's weird, right? It is weird, right? Because obviously, rightly, Mason Greenwood was arrested and then charged and then obviously dropped and blah blah. But at the same time, they had Ronaldo playing for them, and it's like, what are you going to do? I just don't. I think it's a no-win situation. Rod is in the chat, giving it a big. And mate, I said before, it's I didn't see that he'll play again. It's just is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. I do think that like the loan it makes the most sense. Harry Kane needs to grow a backbone, Rodders, while you're there. I know you missed that. I said he needs to grow a backbone and tell Daniel Levy, I've given you my 20s, give me my move. That's what he needs to do. Because otherwise he's going to look back on his golden boots. You know, come on. Do me a favour. But yeah, that's my opinion on Mason Greenwood. That's my opinion on Harry Kane. That's my opinion also on Declan Rice and Man City and why they want him. I think it makes a lot of sense. What else we got in the news this week of football? No movement on the sale of Manchester United. Wilfred Zaha has jetted off on a stag do. He's on a free transfer, Wilfred Zaha. Yeah, Rod is just on about that. Anana and Mason Mount, they'll be done by next week. Two signings, which Ten Hag fit perfectly into his system and what he wants to play beautifully. The keeper, particularly, but also Mason Mount and Fernandez as they change the system slightly because they'll play more of a 4-3-3. But it looks good. What a signing by Newcastle. Kai Havertz, 65 million. Somebody tell me why Kai Havertz is worth 65 million. Nobody has been able to tell me any reason why he cost that much. He is shit. Been shit for 2 years. Chelsea have had him right off. Tommy Tornado says, do you watch friendlies? Personally, got no interest in them. International friendlies are the most meaningless football matches in existence. I don't watch them half time. I got no interest in it. Just pathetic. It does my head in those international breaks for friendlies. And ultimately, Tommy, I'll say this bit, the Nations League is until you get to like the business end of it, they're just glorified friendlies. And I really struggle with it. Pre-season friendlies, they're good if your club has got a few signings in and it's in like a nice way to have a look at them and stuff and some of the younger players. But a bit shit. Rob Boyle, Kai Havertz was decent in the Bundesliga. When was that? 1982? Fucking shit. Shit. And if Arteta's going to play him in midfield, then is he just doing that because he wants to be like Pep and be like evolutionary and like change the player's position and make them great or whatever, like done with John Stones? Tommy Tornado says, agreed, I scrap the Nations League. Too much football, player welfare and all that. Yeah, mate, the player schedule from the season during COVID, from the start of that up until last summer, was insanity. It was reckless. You'd also scrap the Europa Conference. Sorry, West Ham. Yeah, I think so. I'm torn on the Europa Conference because I'm a big fan of back in the day when it was the Cup Winners' Cup, the UEFA Cup, and the Champions League, or the European Cup as it was, because I enjoyed having like those 3 European competitions. I do think there's something in that for the kind of smaller clubs to be able to compete at that level. But like we used to do the show, like I do the show with Rodri, obviously every Thursday and stuff, and like it was just United, just like playing every 2 days. Those players have got no, and not just United, all the teams are in that Europa League. Like they play on the weekend, have a day off, and then it's like, oh shit, we've got a game tomorrow or 2 days, and it's like they've got no time to recover. There's just recovery all the time. No time to recovery. No time for the manager to implement his tactics. This is why I think Chelsea will do so well this year, because they've got no European football. Like Poch is going to just like stroll in on a Monday and be like, fucking right, let's do a bit of tactics, implement his formation, his style, everything, and then Thursday, Friday, right, let's get ready for the game. Like Poch is going to have it all day. I think Chelsea will do well this year. Poch will do well. Rob Boyle says, maybe I'm just greedy and selfish, but I love it all. Just love watching football. Yep, mate. Good for you, man. I can understand it. It's just those friendlies I have real trouble with it. Reese, poor old Reese, is still trying to get. He's having problems with his Facebook. He's going to re-download it. Mate, just go on YouTube. Just go on YouTube, brother. That's where the party's at. Tommy Tornado, I only watched the final, to be honest. Fair play to West Ham. We'd love to win it as a Cardiff fan. Yeah, and I mean, that's it, isn't it? Like, it's kind of shit, isn't it? If you're like watching it and that and you're out of it. But if you're in it, it's, West Ham fans will never forget that. It was a proper night. And they deserved it as well. Declan Rice seeing off his time at West Ham. Good stuff. Right, as we sort of look towards wrapping this show up, let's have a quick flick through the headlines. Sheikh Jassim seen in a rare photo as $5 billion takeover of Manchester United starts to come to an end. Yeah, I think that's going to be done soon. Give it a week or so. Tell you what is will be a bargain for someone is Hannibal leaving United. He impressed me at Birmingham. Thought he'd done really well last year. Good set piece, good quality player. For me, if someone can bring that, get him in, I'd take him all day. Thomas Partey has agreed to move to Juventus. Well, Juventus clearly did not watch the second half of last season, because the second half from Christmas, Thomas Partey was garbage, and he was really poor, really, really poor. And when they needed him, he just hid. And what I didn't realise is Thomas Partey's 30. And again, going back to how hypocritical football fans are, people criticising like Mason Greenwood coming back or not coming back. You got Ronaldo, you've got Alonso killed someone, you've got all these different players. Thomas Partey's got this thing hanging over him. Still playing, man. Yeah, your phone's knackered, Reese, bro. You've broken it. So look, shame we don't have a Tommy Tornado. Shame we don't have a backdoor route into Europe from Welsh football. Yeah, them were the days. Welsh Cup. But then, if the Welsh FA wanted to do something with the Welsh Cup, they would allow Swansea and Cardiff and that to field under 23 side in it. And then, the winner gets into the conference or whatever, the conference qualifiers. I think it's a win-win for everyone. But, not going to happen for various reasons. Rob Bull, any news on the boot and the limp returning? Yeah, I said me and Barry been messaging a little bit. Be back soon, I think. Soon. Which is, for anyone who doesn't know, the boot and the limp is myself and former stand-up comedian Barry, Ballistic Baz Phillips, and we go a bit X-rated and we talk a lot of shit and talk about, it's not football necessarily, sometimes it is, just talk a bit of everything and take the piss, try and make people laugh, and it's good fun. But it's a Patreon only show, so you want to get on that. It's very funny, very enjoyable. You've got to sign up, patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Price of a coffee per month. Bargain by all accounts. Do I miss Ninian Park? God, so much. I hate these new football stadiums. They're soulless. Absolutely soulless. And like a lot of my favourite football memories as a watcher, they're all from Ninian Park, other than Andy Campbell, my good friend. On that note, he'll be coming on very soon, Mr. Campbell. Super Kev as well is going to come on there over the summer when things on the football side have calmed down and stuff. And so they're going to be on. Got a few other football guests lined up. Tomorrow morning, 12 o'clock, My Story. It's a belter with none other than Welsh champion Kieran Gethin. And it is a proper good one. Lots of discussions about different aspects of sport, shall we say, and women's sport that comes into it as well. It's a really interesting conversation. No holding back. Lots of discussion. I've put the message in to Mehmet Dalman, as always, for the yearly show. I think he's been a bit busy of late, but hoping that we do get to do that. It's been the last 3 years, hasn't it? So it'd be a shame if that stopped. I will probably put a reminder in next week to try and lift that off a bit. We've got some cracking, particularly if you like a bit of boxing. If you're a proud Welshman, the next 2 Saturdays got Kieran Gethin tomorrow, and then next week is the hottest thing in boxing. Brandon Scott is on, and what an episode that is! Woo! What an episode! If you don't know who Brandon Scott is, Google him, search him on Instagram. Eddie Hearn bloody loves him. Get involved, sign up, subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, get on patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. It's only just like £2. Basically keeps the lights on. Really appreciate it. If you can't do that for whatever reason, I understand it. Times are hard. We get it. It's cool. Subscribe for free on youtube.com/AcePodcastNation. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Get involved. We love it. I'll be back. So what we got? We got like Monday next week. We'll have the old... what do we do Mondays? Mondays is a Patreon show. Sorry, I was getting confused then because I did one for the public on Monday. Monday is Patreon show. Get involved in that. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, Cardiff City Stroke Championship show. And then Thursday is the weekly footy news live. Saturday is my story. Sunday is the boxing podcast Sugar and Silk, produced by Mr. Ben, produced by Ace Podcast Nation, hosted by Ben Doherty with former professional boxer Michael Olajide Jr., also Hollywood superstar as well. So there is literally, other than Tuesday, there is a show out every single day if you're a Patreon, because Monday is the Patreon only. Take care. God bless. Thank you for the support. Sign up to patreon.com, please. Tidy.